Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Journalists from around the UK, Assalamu alaikum, and sisters and aunties. Welcome first of all to Iftikhar to this wonderful town of ours. I'm glad Councillor Shafqat mentioned Rotherham as well, because he sometimes forgets where he is. Mirza actually was quite very complimentary with the things he said, that I didn't know a great deal about politics. It's true actually, I still don't, but we're still learning day by day. Apart from Lord Emmett actually having the privilege of representing the same seat as Lord Emmett did another great thing as well when he left, before he left actually. He put us in touch with this great Shafqat Mirza, and he said, this is a very, very important man. And he's the one that you need to keep having a good relationship with, so to make sure that your message goes out to the community that you hope to serve. Although here in Rotherham, the Pakistani community only represents about 8 to 10%, 90% of it is white indigenous, but it's absolutely important and imperative that the message that we have for our own community as well, that gets translated. And I think the way that the Jang has been absolutely instrumental to making sure that not only we get our messages go across to our constituents here, but also that we get to know what is happening in our native country. And also I think it's played a huge part in bringing young people through the sort of leadership models, not necessarily into local politics, but although they've had a great deal of influence on that. But I think other areas, you see youngsters sat here today that probably wouldn't have got the opportunities if they haven't had the exposure from the newspaper of the Daily Jang. So I'm very, very grateful, and I think it's a great debt of honour that we owe as a community to the publishers of the Daily Jang. And I think that's the first time that we've had the editor of Daily Jang here in Rotherham. I'm very, very pleased that Mirza has managed to bring such a very senior officer within the Jang organisation, along with the other journalists as well. As I said, my relationship with Mirza goes back a long, long time, and it was through Lord Emmett that I actually met Mirza, and he's always been a very fantastic advocate of community issues. And there's been a number of times, you know, when there's been issues that sometimes, sadly, that as politicians we do get into trouble. But Mirza has always seemed to sort of not highlight or scandalise any issues. He's always tried to put stories in that have shown the positive images of the local politicians and focusing on the issues rather than saying, well, so-and-so person's got into trouble and we highlight that a scandal in the community. So it's always been from the point of view of making sure that if he can't help any individuals or communities, his ethos has always been to make sure that we put a positive spin on the issues that's facing our community. Now, obviously our community faces many, many issues, but they are the same as any other communities. We have issues of drugs, we have issues of unemployment, we have issues of youngsters without having an identity, whether they are, because when we were growing up, we knew exactly, you know, where our ethos was, because we had this sort of the education and upbringing from our parents who actually brought it over from Pakistan and Kashmir. The youngsters nowadays are faced with a different kind of problem, and I think it's absolutely imperative that we have newspapers like the Daily Jang and also our fantastic Ilmnews as well, that does such great work here locally, that actually bridges that gap between the old world and the new world. And I think it's fantastic that we have it in a dual language as well, so for many of us that don't sadly speak or read Urdu, like myself, we can still pick up the newspaper and get the news in English. So I want to say a great big thank you to Mirza. He did say to me, he said, look, you can say some nice things about me, but don't overdo it. But you must